Hey there, I'm Zach from QED Tuning, and today I'm going to be installing a pitch stop mount from Coast Motorsports. For this install, you'll need a few basic tools. More common sizes for the pitch mount are 12s and 14 millimeters. You're going to need some sockets to take the intercooler off, 8, 10, 12 millimeters, a few extensions, and a ratchet. Electric if you have one. And you may also need a jack and 2 jack stands. Sometimes the mount gets kind of bound up and you have to support the transmission from the bottom. We'll start by taking the intercooler off. First, you'll need to remove this breather pipe. We'll start by removing the bypass valve. I always find it helpful to store your bolts and bits on the window cowl. And I just kind of let it hang out right there. Next, you'll want to remove the hoses connecting the intercoolers between the turbo and the engine. And a quick tip when taking the throttle body coupler off, I like to leave it on the throttle body. That way it makes the intercooler a little easier to take on and off. Once you have those loose, just kind of pull up from the back and slide the intercooler off. All right, here's the pitch stop mount that we're going to be replacing. The stock unit's pretty skinny, not very stiff. We're going to start out by taking the bolts off here. All right, next I'm going to use 2 12 millimeter wrenches for the bottom and loosen this bolt. Be careful, there are washers on some of them. And the back side's a 14 millimeter. And that's it. Here we have the two mounts side by side. This is the stock unit. Not very stiff, it's made out of plastic. The Emerald Coast unit is CNC machined billet aluminum with some pretty stiff mounts in there. And this is really going to help reduce any slop in the drivetrain under hard acceleration. To install this, we basically just reverse the process of taking the old one out. I'm going to put that 14 millimeter bolt in the back. Just kind of snug it up by hand. Then I'm going to take the 12 millimeter bolt for the front. And while that back one's loose, I'm going to use that to help me kind of wiggle this one in. All right, now that we have both of those in, we can go ahead and tighten them up. I like to start with the back one, but it really doesn't matter. And that's it. Next thing's to put the intercooler back on.
That's where I show off my skills.
So there's a few tricks to putting this back on. What I like to do is try to hook the lower hose on the turbo first, and then worry about snaking it on the throttle body. So you can see that lower hose is kind of going on there. Next, you want to tighten up all of your hose clamps. A little tip when putting the bypass valve gasket back on, so kind of slide it behind, put those bolts through the holes, that way it doesn't fall back there, and then just kind of get one of the bolts started, and then move to the other one. All right, and the last thing you need to do is put on this breather pipe. And this is normally secured with 3 screws on the intercooler, but since I have an aftermarket one, it just kind of hangs out. And that's it. If you don't have a jack or jack stands, they're not really needed. I just think it makes it easier to work on the car when it's a little bit higher. Definitely feel it in the drivetrain. Notice how little slop there is in the shifter. It really doesn't move at all. Really stiffens up the feel of the transmission, and it adds a whole lot to the overall driving experience.